TV here, back again for another preview show for you guys. The Spurs take on Brighton at the Amex on Thursday. I hope you all had a very Merry Christmas. I hope you all spent really quality time with the family and got all the gifts you wanted. But the best gift Spurs can give you for Christmas is 3 points on Thursday. To join me today for the preview show, I got Barnaby Slater from the Spurs On podcast joining me today. How are we doing, Barnaby?
Yes,
lovely Christmas?
mate. Amazing Christmas. Hope you all did at home as well. Obviously, slightly devastated by today's news that Christian Romero is out for 4 to 5 weeks, but I'm not going to let that ruin my positivity. 3 wins on the spin. Let's get talking about this big Brighton game.
Yeah, look, massive game. Spurs have a real chance to put pressure on the top 3. In fact, if we do beat Brighton on Thursday, we go level on points with Aston Villa, who currently sit 3rd in the table at the moment, with Arsenal also playing West Ham on Thursday. Brighton, obviously, their form at the moment has been a bit hit and miss. They've kind of been struggling to balance European football with their league form. Last season, obviously, they wowed so many people with the football they were playing and the goals they were scoring, really blooding the noses of a lot of the big teams. But this season has been a bit of a different story, hasn't it, with Brighton? They've played some nice football, but they just seem so kind of vulnerable at the back this season. They haven't seemed to be finding that right balance at the moment. As you see, 2 wins their last 5. It has picked up a bit in the last few games, but what have you made of Brighton this season? Do you think they're just going through some teething problems with European football, or is it something deeper?
I think that. I think also they've lost some of their best players and it takes time to bed new players in, although I think they are incredible at bringing young players through. They're very good at buying in advance, expecting players to leave at certain times and having new players to come in. I also wonder, and I said this to you before we went on or earlier on, I wonder whether De Zerbi is one of those managers who, when you're hearing the same message shouted at you day after day after day, dare I say it, a little bit Conte-esque, I wonder whether maybe some of the players are getting a bit tired of it. Obviously, this could very easily come back to bite me on Thursday night, but you know, I'm not doubting his ability as a manager and the football that they play. It's outstanding. It's amazing to watch. And I think that game is going to be incredible. It's going to be goals, goals. I'm sure of it. But I just wonder, he's so kind of aggressive, isn't he? And he's so kind of angry all the time, De Zerbi, that I just wonder whether there's an element of that too. But look, like I said, it's going to be an incredible game. 2 teams just going at it. I think it'll be like basketball.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, 100%. I think it's set to be a really open game. Obviously, we know that we don't really change for anyone. We're going to have a real good go at Brighton. I'm really liking, obviously, the football we've been playing even in recent weeks, especially against a Brighton team who is so vulnerable at the back. And I think at the moment, defensively, they are very much struggling to keep the back door shut, essentially. They're giving up chances at will and coming up against a Tottenham team who, with Kulusevski moved back into the centre, I think we found a bit of a right formula for the time being up front as well. I definitely see Spurs creating loads of chances against a Brighton team, even at the Amex, albeit they are tougher to beat away from home than they. When they're at home than away from home. But given the fact there's no Romero, the way Brighton like to play their football, on the flip side of that, do I see Tottenham struggling to contain Brighton at this stage? I can see us having difficulties. I think maybe against other sides who we're going to have a bit more control of the football and a bit more possession, we can maybe restrict, even with Emerson and Davis, restrict them to limited chances. But I just see Brighton, the way they play through teams, the way they open up teams, if we're not as really proactive in our defending and really aggressive, I could definitely see Brighton carving a lot of opportunities. And definitely, look, as you alluded to, the Romero news is devastating this morning. We were hoping for some positive news going into this game that he was going to be fit to play. But now he's out. We've seen already with Emerson and Davis, I wouldn't necessarily say the performance level dropped massively with those two, but definitely we're a lot more vulnerable at the back. I think ever since Romero's come in that West Ham game, we've been a lot tighter at the back ever since he's come in. And I can definitely see a bit of a struggle keeping Brighton at bay here. Yeah,
I mean, I think the reality is whenever we play, opposition managers have seen that diagonal ball in behind our fullbacks gives you loads of width and loads of time. And what it'll come down to is whether Brighton are clinical going forward. Because, yeah, as you say, I think they will make chances. I think they would have made chances if Romero was playing as well. I actually think Romero will be more missed when we've got the ball, in terms of playing the ball through the lines and being brave on the ball and some of that passing that he's got. But I think defensively, it would be a huge worry if we were playing against a team who were kind of going to throw it into the box a lot more, because we'll miss Romero's aggressiveness. But I think the Brighton match will be the same without Romero. With Romero, they will make chances. It's whether we can be more clinical than them. And I think this is basically Big Ange's philosophy. Whoever score more goals than the opposition.
Yeah.
And it'll be both teams kind of playing like that tomorrow. I don't know. Before I heard about the Romero thing, I was actually quite confident that we'd go there and win maybe by 2 or 3. And actually, we're only 2 goals behind Villa, I think, in goal difference. We could have gone above them potentially. But now without Romero, I think it'll be more of a seesaw. I don't think we'll have as much control of the ball when we have the ball, because I think we're assuming that Emerson Royale will come in ahead of Dyer for Romero. I just don't think he's as brave on the ball, and so we won't have the same tempo bringing the ball out from the back. I think it's probably worth going through some of Brighton's home results recently. I've written them down here. Burnley 1-1 draw at home. Now, obviously, Burnley play a similar way to how Spurs do, just without as many good players.
Yeah.
Company wants to play front foot stuff, get the ball down, make chance after chance after chance. So that was 1-1. They beat Brentford 2-1 at home. Brentford obviously don't have even Tony at the moment. Their form has been very bitty as well. So I don't think that's, I think maybe with Tony, maybe Brentford would have done a bit better. And then Sheffield United 1-1 drew at home as well. So their home form is not much to write home about. Now, what I will say, Thursday night over Christmas time, everybody turning up there will be absolutely, drunk, I think it's fair to say. So the atmosphere will be good, and Brighton will get up for big games. I think recently, up until the last couple of games, maybe Lewis Dunk had his suspension from where he got sent off. So they've missed him for sure. Do I think it'll be an easy game? No, but I think there are chances there for Tottenham Hotspur. We have the better players, and as well as talking about, obviously Romero being out, I think a big one will be if Skip plays again and starts again. Will his rustiness have worn off a bit? Will he be more into the rhythm of the Premier League like he was? It felt he was a bit more in the second half of that game. And what we need from Skip is to really boss that midfield, because Brighton will play the ball around and they will press high. We need him to be brave on the ball, take the ball on the half turn, and be as good as Oliver Skip can be. Now, I'm not saying that I think Oliver Skip is probably a future Ange Ball starter, but if he wants to become a long-term squad player for Ange, he needs, in this period of games, when he gets the opportunity, to take games by the scruff of the neck and say, I am good enough to boss this game at that level. I think that will be key, because I'm assuming he won't play Gio Lo Celso. He'll keep him on the bench and he'll play Skip and Sarr with Kulusevski in that kind of 8-10 role. And one of those players, Skip or Sarr, needs to take the game by the scruff of the neck. And I'm looking at it being Oliver Skip tomorrow night, because he'll be up against that player whose name suddenly escapes me, but the former Chelsea player. Billy Gilmour, who plays central midfield. And as we saw when he played for Scotland against England, he really can take a game by the scruff of the neck. We need Oliver Skip to have a great game tomorrow.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point, especially when you look at how Brighton play and their midfield. I think their last game they played a midfield 3 of Pascal, Gross, Gilmour and Lallana, and in terms of like physicality or someone to challenge, like Skip should be looking at thinking, I could bully that, I could definitely get on top of that. And I think we haven't seen the best of Ollie Skip for a while now. I do believe, in my opinion, that number 6 position is best suited to his attributes. I don't think he's a number 8. I think he has struggled when he's had to think too quickly or be more offensive in that position, and I did think it was an improvement on Saturday, albeit I don't think it was perfect, but I did think it was an improvement on what we've seen from Skip so far this season. So I agree. I think he needs a massive performance, and it is kind of at the moment do or die at the moment for him, because he knows at the end of January Basuma and Bentancur are going to be returning from not being available. Exactly. It's really on him now to really impress, especially with Højbjerg. He's he might be leaving in January as well, so it's really Skip's chance to get his place in the team and not let it go. But just to touch on Brighton's form, what you were saying, home form, they have had some dodgy results, as you said, but it's important to note, out of their 9 home games, they have only lost 1. So albeit they haven't maybe been winning loads, but still not losing a lot. They have drawn 4 and won 4, so definitely hard to beat. Can
we mention that midfield of theirs that you mentioned then? One thing I'd say when you went through those names, I think Pat Matassa might have the engine to kind of really draw them out and take them around, because they're quite. I mean, Lallana's not got the legs that he used to have, and I don't know, Pascal Gross, did you mention? I'm not sure.
Pascal Gross, he's
not renowned for his legs, and Billy Gilmour isn't quick, so it might be that Pat Matassa might be able to have a good game, get amongst them. It's his engine that I want to talk about. I just love how he gets up and down. And I know a lot of people say it, but I'm going to say it as well. And I know I shouldn't, but he reminds me of a young Patrick Vieira. He does. He hasn't filled out yet. Vieira eventually did fill out. but he's kind of gangly, but his engine, he's up and down and up and down, and he's better on the ball than I ever used to give him credit for, I have to say. So as long as Sarr plays tomorrow, I think we'll have enough legs in there in midfield, that's for sure. And I love Kulusevski in that 8-10 role. I really do. He's so creative. He's got that kind of big backside of people bounce off him. He takes it on the half turn. And that's why I definitely keep him in the team ahead of Lo Celso. But, you know, if Big Ange was being incredibly brave, he might say, Sarr, you play in the 6. I'll bring Lo Celso in for Skip. And then we've got a very creative midfield. But I do wonder if away from home, that is one attacking step too far. I don't know. That's kind of something I do on Football Manager, but I'm not sure would be a good idea in the real life of the hard prem.
Obviously, when we've seen Lo Celso and Kulusevski together, the football's been great, but I do feel like maybe the balance of the midfield just wasn't quite right. We played brilliant football, but we did seem to concede a lot of chances when we did have that midfield. So especially against a Brighton team who we know are very creative, they play very quick football. I do wonder whether Andrew just want another body in there just to definitely toughen things up.
No, I think he will. Yeah.
Looking at the head-to-head between both these sides over the last 5 games, Spurs do have a good record against them, have won 4 of the last 5, albeit it's important to note the last game we played out at the Tottenham Stadium was back in April, and it was one of the biggest basically like one-sided 2-1 victories for Tottenham, where Brighton definitely deserved that victory and they'll probably want revenge for that one. We did win 1-0 the Amex last time out, Harry Kane with a header, albeit again it was a game where
was it the header or was it that left-footed one that I can't remember now.
I think it was a header like from a cross, I think, if I remember rightly.
I'm getting mixed up with the year before.
Yeah, I think so. I think that one was the year before we won 2-0, went through on goal, didn't he? And slid it home. So pretty good record against Brighton, albeit this is a very different Tottenham to maybe those teams who've beaten Brighton before.
That 1-0 where we lost at home, was that the one where Basuma scored the screamer, winning it for them?
Yes, and that was right in the battle for top 4, I remember.
That's right, yeah. I think we thought that was going to kill us, but it didn't.
No, sorry, it was Trossard. He scored a last-minute winner.
Oh, was it?
Trossard, yeah. I think Basuma scored in the FA Cup game.
That's right, the Cup game, okay. Yeah, well, look, you know, Brighton, one of the most impressive clubs in the country, I have to say. Very impressed with how they do their business. They've got the sporting director guy, the chief, the CEO is the ex-Spurs guy, Paul Barber. Is that his name? I think he kind of runs the business side of it. They did have Dan Ashworth. Obviously, he got poached by Saudi Arabia, Newcastle. But they do it right, and they're a business model that lots of teams are trying to copy. And that is why, despite having quite a long injury list there that we can see up on the screen there, so Fatty's out, Estupiñán's a good player as well. Mitoma a doubt, that would be big. That would be big.
Yeah,
if
apparently he is set to miss tomorrow's game.
I rate Mitoma so highly that, look, based on how much Chelsea had to pay for Moise Caicedo, you know, I dread to think how much you'd have to pay to get Matoma out of that club because he gives goals and assists, but he's such a player. I would love to see him come to Spurs. I'm not saying it's likely. I'm just saying he is a Spurs player, like the kind of Chris Waddle-esque winger that we had when I was growing up, and Ginola kind of in years further down the line. Spurs are kind of born and bred on wingers like that, and I'd love to get him, but seems unlikely. But yeah, it would be a big win for Spurs if he wasn't playing tomorrow night.
Yeah, looking at that team, obviously the injuries have definitely hit them hard, and they're missing a lot of big players. Solly March was a big player for them as well, before his injury. Veltman's one of their only real solid defenders. When you look at that side, do you really look at it and think that's a side that can be really be got at and that can be really exploited? Or do you because De Zerbi's very adaptable, a bit like Ange, like he seems to play anyone, anywhere. Yeah. Like he can play Grosser right back and can do a job. And so do you really not take too much notice of that injury list?
I feel more with Brighton, it's about they have such a way of playing, a style of play that all the players know exactly what they have to do. So they're almost completely interchangeable. I kind of look at Brighton and worry more about the kind of players who have upset me before. So I look immediately at Lallana and think, oh God, he'll probably score. And obviously I assume Danny Welbeck will probably come off the bench at some point, ex-Arsenal player, and has upset me before, scoring goals either for Arsenal or playing well against us. So they're the players I look at. I mean, to be honest, I look at that injury list and think of players that I'm really glad aren't going to be playing against us. So Lamptey, Matoma, Solly March and Fatty, who obviously it would be scripty for him to come and play against and score against us because we were supposed to be getting him. That was all the big rumour on the deadline day, and then Brighton got him instead. I don't know whether there was any real truth to him nearly coming to us or not, but it was certainly talked about on that deadline day, and in classic fashion as a result, the Spurs Twitter fan base were absolutely livid when we didn't get him, and and hell.
We got
nearly
Brennan
froze
Johnson
over.
instead, so it was not too bad.
Yeah, and I love Brennan Johnson. I think he's still raw, but I think he's going to prove to be an excellent signing for Spurs. His instincts in terms of getting into the box at the right time are really good. He missed that chance. It was only 7 yards out, bobbled up a little bit. Great cross for Richarlison's goal. So he's doing stuff in his first season that's very impressive. I mean, let's face it, he's done more in his first season at Spurs than Richarlison did last season already.
Yep.
And he's very young and very talented. And as he grows and becomes more confident in his role within the squad and the team, I can see him having a breakout season in the next few years and becoming a huge, huge talent and player for Spurs. Yeah, and this is obviously our injury and suspended list.
Well, which is it is extensive, I think is the word you could say. Obviously, we've got Romero now out injured. He's now added to the list. He's alongside long-term injuries in Perisic, Solomon, Sessegnon. Van de Ven, though, hopefully back mid-January, but he's definitely out for Thursday. Madison, Basuma suspended. Obviously, he's not going to be seen until the end of January. And Bentancur is still out injured as well. So it really is tough reading that. I think, how many of those players would be starting on Thursday? Probably, I can count 5 there. Probably
I think Van de Ven, Madison, Basuma, Romero, and Bentancur. Yeah,
they would all be starting, and maybe even Solomon if we put Son up front. Like it's really crazy how we just non-stop injuries. But to be fair, as you say, Brighton have an extensive list. It does seem to be a common theme, doesn't it? That every team seems to be struggling. Maybe not as bad as us, but a lot of teams are struggling with bad injuries.
I'd say Newcastle, Manchester United and Spurs have suffered with injuries like worse than anyone. I got a lot of pushback on the Spurred On podcast, my channel, when we played Villa, when I suggested that Villa had got away with injuries quite a lot. A lot of Villa fans saying, you have no idea, blah, blah, blah. Look, let's be honest. World Cup last winter has not helped. I don't think all the stopping and starting in VAR helps at all. And of course, the extra time being played at the end of each half and at the end of each match is not helping. The stats show that injuries are up by a huge percentage. Something needs to be done about it at some point, because there aren't going to be less games next year. There are going to be more with the new format of the Champions League, and player welfare does have to be taken into consideration. I don't think it can be seen as coincidence anymore. And really, people just do have to look into it. And
you add into all those factors as well that football has never been more intense when it comes to running. How everyone's running stats has to be up, and everyone's physicality has to be a tip,
especially in the Premier League.
Yeah. So I think all those issues, coupled with football just becoming much more of an intense game than it even was maybe 10 or 15 years ago, is causing this problem that we have now. Just going back onto the game on Thursday, though, in terms of styles of play, obviously both teams are very much possession based. They like to keep the ball. They like to be creative and be not necessarily patient, but I wouldn't say their style was similar, because I feel like Brighton are much more patient than Spurs. Spurs, even though they like to keep possession, can be very direct and quick. How do you see the game going when it comes in terms of who's going to dominate possession in this game? Because both teams are going to be looking to keep the ball. I remember asking a similar question to Ben when we played Arsenal at the Emirates and even City. Like, when you've got two teams looking to keep the ball, it's going to be who's better at it. Yeah. So who do you expect to have more possession on Thursday?
Well, I think Ange will be desperate for Spurs to grab the game by the scruff of the neck and be in possession of the ball. But what that often comes down to in games where, like you said, you've got two teams trying to do the same thing is, like you said, firstly, how good each team is at doing it. Now, what I'd say about it is Spurs, in terms of players on the pitch, in terms of talent and potential, should be better at doing that. But where that kind of type of play builds up from the back, we're not blessed with the best two centre-halves. So it might be more difficult for us to do it. Also, Brighton, I think, playing at home will have an extra element of confidence, of the stability of knowing their surroundings. And that may well mean that we will have periods where we're in control of the ball, but also Brighton will them. So it wouldn't surprise me if it ends up, whereas quite a lot of our games, I think, end up kind of 60% possession to us. It wouldn't surprise me if this is more like 52-48 one way or the other, or 53-47. But if it got to half time and we had kind of ceded possession for the majority of the first half, I think Ange would be right on them and say, just like he did at half time of the City game, where he was like, don't be less brave, be more brave. I will take the responsibility. And that's what I love almost most about Ange. He's incredibly open and honest about it's his responsibility. So even if you're Emerson Royale and Ben Davis, keep showing for the ball, keep playing those tight balls into Oliver Skip at number 6. Ollie, keep taking it on the half turn and give it. And if you lose it and we concede a goal, it's not your fault, it's my fault. So I think by the end, Spurs should be maybe just ahead. That's what I think.
Yeah, I can think, looking at both teams, as you know, I saw the Brighton lineup. I actually think physically we can definitely have the edge on this game. I think we can bully Brighton a bit, but it is all going to be about whether we have the quality at the back line to progress it through the pitch like we have been doing over the past few weeks. Because I really, truly believe once we get it to that front five, essentially, Kulu, Sarr, and then the front three, if we can get it to those players consistently enough, we're going to open them up. We'll have the quality, because I'm looking at that back line and I think that can 100% be got at for sure. Not only can it be got at individually, but I just think as a system as well, the way Brighton play, it's prime for a team like Tottenham to open them up. But it's whether the back line has the quality to handle Brighton's pressing and does it have the quality to pass quickly enough and with enough quality. I really believe someone like Porro, obviously he's going to be our most crucial player when it comes to the build-up. I think he's so underrated when it comes to just when we give the ball to him and we're looking to build up a play, he finds such clever passes and quick passes. I think we just need to be basically finding him as much as possible. I really hope Brighton don't come with a plan to basically stop Porro during the build-up, because if they do, we could have a bit of a problem. But
if they, sorry to jump in, but if they do, then I think we'll use Udogie more. And that's where having Udogie back for this game is going to be huge for us, because I think as well as him being such an incredible athlete, getting up and down, he is such a brilliant technician on the ball. And I agree with everything you're saying about Porro, but I think Udogie is almost that, but also a bit stronger on the ball. He doesn't get muscled off it quite so easily. And he finds himself in these lovely little pockets in what I'd call like the inside left channel all the way up the pitch. And I think if they were to come with a plan for Porro, then it means that they're not coming up with a plan for Udogie and he'll have more space. I'm really pleased that he's playing tomorrow, because I think it really allows, when Ben Davies has the ball, a much easier pass through the line for him. And actually Ben Davies, I think, is underrated on the ball. He plays those lovely kind of skimmed balls across into the wide man or into Udogie really, really beautifully. And it wouldn't surprise me if we go down that flank a little bit more. But yeah, I agree. Porro is a beautiful technician as well, especially in terms of sometimes he gets those balls out on the touchline and he'll just play it first time with the outside of his boot into that little half space. I'm a big fan of his too.
Yeah, he always seems to have fun in these really accurate passes. And I think it's kind of two completely opposite ways, but just as much effective of like building up. Like Porro usually is very effective with his build-up play, with his passing. Like usually finds very quick, clever passes. Whereas Udogie builds up with just using his brute strength, just like he's basically going to go past you and you can't do anything about it. Yeah. But it's just as effective, but two very, very different ways. And I think as well, if we can, because usually the system is basically geared to be getting the wingers into one-on-one situations. Yep. And if we can do that enough times, I'm looking at Brighton's fullbacks. Last game they played Hinchelwood, who's an 18-year-old, and they played Igor, who's a centre-back. And I really think Johnson and Son, if we can get them in enough situations, they will be licking those lips of those opportunities to really take on those fullbacks.
I'll tell you, well, the chance that we created, I think it was a couple of games ago, we created a chance in the first few minutes. Which game was it? Was it away? I think it was away at Forest. That's right, where we played the ball inside the right back and Sonny had that chance right very early, 3 minutes gone. We need to make more chances like that. If Sonny's up against an 18-year-old at the back, he needs to be making that out to in run all the time so we can try and play him through. Kulusevski will find that ball and Son won't miss many chances like that again. So they're the kind of balls I'm looking for, because what I've really noticed, I think Son is looking good out on the left, but Son is sometimes trying things that I don't think are his game. He is not a burst of pace winger where he's going to, from a standing start, get around the outside. Whereas when he's got the ball and he's at full pace, then he can run past anybody. So what we need to do is get him either running from deep where he's at full pace and getting past him, or from standing start, making those little outside to in runs for Kulusevski to put him through. And exactly the same with Brennan Johnson as well. Johnson is a lot better as a winger when he can beat a man when he's already at full pace already than he is from a standing start. And it suits Ange's play, so I don't have an issue with it. But it's not like we've got Aaron Lennon, who from a standing start can just beat anyone over small distances. That's not how it is. But I completely agree with you. I think a lot of the chances on both sides will be made down the sides. And I think it'll come down to, like I said, I think at the beginning, who is more clinical. And we've got a player in Richarlison, 4 in 3 games, is most confident in a Spurs shirt, If we make him chances, I'm confident he'll score goals.
Yeah, great form he's in, isn't he? 4 in the last 3.
Yeah.
And he really looks like a new player, Richarlison. If we do win this game, if we do manage to get 3 points, especially out of Romero, that does make it 4 wins on the trot. It could potentially put us above Aston Villa in 3rd place. And it would also mean we are 3 points off the top, right? I think if we do win, because Liverpool are currently top.
Yeah, that's
if we win, we'll be 3 points off the top. I mean, for you, what would that say about what we're fighting for this season if we do manage to do that? Would that change your thoughts in terms of what we're actually aiming for or could achieve? Or are you thinking like, if we do get this win, yes, it's brilliant, it'll be a brilliant position, but we got a lot tougher challenges to come in January with players missing. We'll see where we stand at come February.
So this is how I feel. This is very much going to come across as a sitting on the fence answer, but I feel like this period of games, by which I mean Brighton, Bournemouth, and then the 2 Premier League games that we have in January.
Man United, I think.
Man United and one other that I can't remember at the moment, but it's an easier one than Man United. And it's at home. These 4 games we have to take as a 4 on their own. And we have to say, can we get to like 9 points from these 4 games somehow? Or at the worst, 8 points. 2 wins, 2 draws, or 3 wins and a loss. Because I think after those games, we will have the players back from the African Nations Cup and the Asian Cup, Sonny at the Asian Cup, and we'll have the majority of our players back from injury. And if we are within 5 or 6 points of the top of the league at that stage, with those players coming back, I genuinely think we can start talking again in the same way we talked in those first 10 games. Because I've not seen a better team than us this season. I know this is like controversial to say, and we're Spurs fans, so it's difficult for us to say.
We need to know our place.
But I've watched a lot of football, and in terms of the football we play and the danger that we create and how aggressive we are defensively as well, I've not seen a better team than Spurs this season. Arsenal are playing really well, but they're not at their best. Liverpool the same. They did well yesterday, but whatever. So if we were to be within 5 or 6 at that point, I think we could say we could push that top 3. If we're, say, 10 points behind at the end of January, then I think we're looking at, can we get that 4th and 5th place berth? That's where I really feel like these 4 games are. And that's why I'm actually so gutted about Romero. Because with Romero in the team, I really noticed the difference in how much better we were than when he wasn't. And it's because of how he is when he's on the ball, as well as his brilliant defending, obviously. So that's where I feel about it. I still, like I said, I feel borderline pretty confident we can get a win tomorrow night. But I take a draw at this stage because of the Romero thing. And then Bournemouth are on a good run of games. But I do think Bournemouth at home is a game, even despite the fact we don't have Romero, where the crowd and the momentum should take us through. Now, if we were to win tomorrow night and win against Bournemouth, then I think we can go into the new year looking like almost like those 2 January games are a little bit like the Old Trafford game could be a bit of a free shot. We haven't always got a great record at Old Trafford. They're rubbish. They're absolute dross, Man United. I tell you, they're absolute dross. I could see us turning them over. But anyway, it's looking too far ahead. But we could win tomorrow night. That's what I'm saying. What do you guys think in the comments? What's the result going to be? You let us know in the comments.
Yeah, I want predictions. I'll get Barnaby's prediction in a sec. But I completely agree. I think if most teams who are showing the consistency and performance level and the football that we're playing, I really think most teams in that position would be considered title contenders. I just think, obviously, we're Tottenham, and just in his first few months, people are expecting us to fall off at some point. Obviously, those 5 games we didn't win, but even in those 5 games, we were a lot of them, we were quite unlucky to get the results that we did end up getting. We still played quite good football, and that was it with depleted defence and all that kind of stuff.
We should have beaten Chelsea, Villa, and West Ham.
Yeah, we should have definitely gotten results in those games. So there's no reason to think that at the moment we can't, even without Romero, be getting positive results, or at least put in really positive performances. Yeah. But I agree. I think if we can really get through this period not too far off the top, I think there's no reason why we can't dream with the players come back and we can get back to how, because remember those first 10 games, we were literally, it was like it was very systemic. We were just winning every single game, performing such a great level. Even in games we weren't looking great, we're winning it 2-0, really comfortable. We already got that stage where we were getting comfortable victories at that point. And if that was, I think, just because we had a settled defence, it was so hard to penetrate, and then we were just finding so many moments of quality. I actually think, in a weird way, the football that we've been playing ever since that period has actually been better in terms of like the chances we've been creating and how we've been opening teams up. It's just been we haven't been able to close that back door because of the injuries we've had. But if we can marry the kind of football we've been playing recently with that really solid, tight defensive unit we had at the beginning of the season, who knows what's possible? I mean, it's very, very exciting what we could achieve, especially if we can get a few faces in January as well.
I also say, I think rather than maybe saying, I'm not sure I'd go as far as say it's been better since the injuries, but what I'd say is we've had to find more strings to our bow. And that, I think, is solely because we lost James Maddison. We cannot forget how important James Maddison was in terms of being the player who took the ball in every scenario. He would come as deep as he possibly could to get the ball off his backline if they were being pressed on the touchline. And then he would find balls, like just some of the balls he played in that first 20 minutes against Chelsea, like through into central midfield, just unbelievable. And when he comes back, not only will we have that ability from him to cut teams open, but the strings to our bow that we've added since, which have mostly been, I think, from having to work the ball out wide more and make chances from out wide and getting crosses into the middle as well, which I know we did do early on against Liverpool as well with that goal from Richarlison crossing it into Son. But I just think we have more strings to our bow, more attacking threat, and therefore, yeah, like I said, if we can get to the end of the month, the end of January, get those players back, then we're going to be so hard to play against. And if there's momentum at that point, the difficulty I should say, play devil's advocate. Obviously, when we played Wolves away, it was a stodgy, turgid game. We didn't have anyone really in the team who was able to create, and we weren't really able to play out from the back when we were being pressed. There is a chance that tomorrow night's game will be a bit like that. And when that happens, it's very easy for Spurs fans to forget what the journey is and what the difficulty is because of injuries, and to be like, oh, typical Spurs, typical Spurs. But there's also a chance in a stodgy game like that, we can still nick it. Like that Forest game was quite stodgy like that as well. When you're playing,
remember Wolves were only conceded 2 last minute
exactly.
goals.
And when you play away, especially in night games when the atmosphere is big, that's what those clubs are trying to do. The difference is, I don't think Brighton will try and turn it into one of those games. I think it'll be like mono a mono, attack versus attack. And I think when that happens, the fact that our players have more kind of potential, better qualities, attributes than them, that might see us come out of it, but it'll come down to who's more clinical. If anything kind of worldy or magic happens, they have got some class. Is Evan Ferguson fit?
I think he is fit and available.
He looks like a real talent.
Started the last couple games.
Okay.
I think it's been João Pedro, but I believe he is fit and available.
Yeah, and Pedro's been doing well for them. But look, I think it's going to be an exciting game one way or the other. I'll be here on the watch along, watching it with you guys at home. So don't forget to tune into that. But there's something inside me that makes me think we can go there, get a result. And also, if we did get 3 points in that game, honestly, I would be absolutely buzzing.
So, having said all of that, what is your prediction going into the week on Thursday?
I'm going 3-2 Spurs.
3-2.
I'm going 3-2 Spurs. As I said, I think it'll be goals, goals, goals. The only thing that actually makes me wonder if it'll be goals, goals, goals is Vicario is in such unbelievable form. He's actually in such unbelievable form that when I did the post-match reaction video on WeAreTottenhamTV after the last game, I totally forgot to mention him because I'm so used to the fact that he always pulls out a 9 out of 10 performance. But he's an incredible shot stopper, and more importantly, is so strong and brave in coming out for crosses. And I think he just gives the defence a layer of confidence that they haven't had for a number of years. So hoping not to jinx him, but the only reason I don't think they wouldn't score 2 goals is if Vicario pulls out another 9 or 10 out of 10 performance. But I'm going 3-2 Spurs, Richarlison with a brace.
I predicted 2-2. It is a bit pessimistic, but I just feel like it was actually on the basis that Romero wasn't going to be out. I feel like I think you're right when it comes to, will we have the element of control without Romero as we would with him? Are we going to suffer too much into the chances we concede? I do believe that once we get through that first phase of pressing from Brighton and we get into their half of the pitch, I think there will definitely be chances with us. I think we will struggle when we're playing out the back, especially taking short goal kicks and that kind of stuff. Will Brighton be able to catch us out on too many occasions, and will we struggle to keep possession in those phases of play? Are we going to be forced to go long because the players don't have the quality to play through the back line, that kind of thing? I do worry about that a bit. I'm sure we will have it more often than not, but I just think Brighton are a good enough team to exploit that weakness. And as well, they don't lose many games at home as well based on that. They've only lost 1 game at home despite the fact they've had a few dodgy results. So unfortunately, I'm going 2-2. I'll be very impressed if we do go and take the victory. I'm obviously going to be up there on Thursday night, so I'll be getting all the footage from the game, so stay tuned for that.